Every year, a new Madden NFL game comes out, and every year the marginal improvements and new additions feel like just enough to keep the series moving forward. This year, however, things feel a bit different in Madden NFL 21. Despite the introduction of the surprisingly fun and unique The Yard mode, the list of persistent issues, neglected features, and new annoyances is growing quite long. So even though the underlying moment-to-moment football gameplay has continued to make progress with its fine-tuning refinements, just about everything else is underwhelming, including technical performance. It's easy to be dismissive of annual sports games by saying they look and play the same every year because to some degree that's true. As usual, when you're playing a game from the typical zoomed out camera perspective, Madden 21 looks fantastic. Stadiums are true to life, character models are extremely detailed, animations look smooth and responsive, and overall, it's got a sharp design that feels cutting edge. Once you get up close though, player faces are often stiff and awkward, and the fans in the bleachers still look like low poly cardboard cutouts. Similarly, the NFL pageantry around each game is still lacking. It's missing the vast majority of stat blocks and recap cutaways that you typically see during the actual NFL broadcast that Madden is striving to emulate. On a related note, the halftime show content is still basically non-existent. It's also been notably buggier than normal. Playing on PlayStation 4 Pro, performance issues have made things incredibly frustrating across the board. Frame rate drops have been common and severe enough to make me miss kicks, and miscellaneous issues like my opponent randomly mirroring my entire team or textures tearing across the screen weren't addressed in the first patch. When things are running smoothly on the field, moment-to-moment gameplay feels a tiny bit faster than last year with more precise animations for things like jukes and spins. As a ball carrier, using the right skill stick feels more dynamic and fluid for pulling off evasive moves, and overall blocking seems more realistic. Runners plant their feet well and make decisive cuts, so it all adds up to really satisfying goal line moments on both offense and defense. On the defensive side, pass rushing as a lineman is a much deeper experience than in previous Maddens thanks to the new ability system that helps navigate blocks. Also, on the defensive side of the ball, it's much harder now, as it should be, to play a linebacker. In Madden NFL 20, it seemed like every linebacker in the league could run down speedy receivers while making superhuman leaps into the air to intercept bullet passes out of nowhere. But now linebackers are thankfully toned down in effectiveness, with far fewer impossible seeming moments.
Hey, get up, man. I want to watch some TV. You've been laying out here all morning.
This year's version of the story-driven campaign mode is called Face of the Franchise Rise to Fame. It's a genuinely bad story built around paper-thin illusion that your actions and choices matter. You start all the way back in high school as the backup quarterback to local legend and rival Tommy Matthews. Performances feel phoned in, animations are poor, and some of the most crucial scenes are inexplicably devoid of all voice acting. Playing NCAA games again, albeit briefly and fragmented, was a real treat, except that nothing matters. You can intentionally tank every game and not complete a single pass, yet still get drafted because off-screen you lit up the scoreboard. The best thing about this mode though is that the story doesn't stop once you arrive in the NFL. Unlike last year, story moments continue to pop up over the years as you play through a sort of highlight reel of your career. It's a good format that kept me coming back for more, even if the writing is extremely clunky and Matthews is all but non-existent after you reach the NFL.
I'm a huge fan of yours.
Nah, man, I'm a fan of yours.
The big new mode this year is called The Yard. It has proved to be a bright spot in Madden NFL 21. The 6v6 mode pits superstar caliber players against one another in a ludicrously silly but oddly captivating backyard game. There are no quarters or time limits here, and the field is only 80 yards long. Each side gets 3 offensive possessions starting at their 20-yard line with a 1st and 20. You can hike the ball to any player on your team, and you can throw behind the line of scrimmage multiple times. With so many new and unexpected rules to learn, the yard is extremely jarring at first, but it did grow on me. I also like the jumbled up look in all the players' clothing. It's new and different, and there's some good novelty in that. Much of the gains the yard makes in ingenuity, though, it gives up in its lack of depth. There isn't a franchise structure or league format to go through, other than a handful of stadiums with unique rule sets. I enjoyed the yard for what it is, a nifty distraction from the real core of Madden, but it doesn't have enough meat to satisfy on its own. Not much is new this year in Madden Ultimate Team, meaning you'll see advertisements for the mode and loading screens and feel pressure to try it constantly. If you're not familiar, the gist is that you open random packs of sports cards that each represent NFL players of today and yesteryear. These cards make up your team, like a living, breathing fantasy squad. The premise at the core of MUT is cool enough, but it's just so riddled with pay-to-win microtransactions that it's hard to enjoy. Without paying, it's a slow, tedious grind that will all be erased when Madden NFL 22 comes out. The only really significant change to MUT this year is a change to how abilities are capped, which allows you to be more flexible with balancing your team. And, of course, franchise mode is once again relegated to background status and completely neglected. Other than expanded wildcard rounds to match actual NFL rules, new X-Factor abilities that were added this year, and more authentic rookie contracts, it's quite literally identical to last year, all the way down to the menu layout. And that means it's almost identical to Madden NFL 19 as well, because there were no significant changes last year either. It's a shameful lack of attention for what is historically one of Madden's most played modes. Madden NFL 21 is a great example of why competition breeding innovation is a good thing. Without a comparable NFL game to go up against, EA has allowed its marquee sports franchise to fall behind other sports games in almost every significant way. There is no excuse for Madden stagnation, or its focus on the shamelessly pay-to-win Ultimate Team mode. Even though I appreciate the tweaks to the core gameplay and the chaotic novelty of the yard, that is not enough to make me want to sing Madden NFL 21's praises. For more on Madden NFL 21, check out some gameplay from the Yard mode. And for everything else, stay tuned to IGN.